Hey everybody, it's Mark from Northeast Bass Fishing. How you doing? I have some video clips. My buddy Chris from Jersey came up last week. We fished for a couple days, so here is day one. And as you can see, my raincoat there. As you guys know, last week Northeast it was pretty rainy, so we were dodging storms both days, but we did get out. And so we're throwing some top water in a local lake here, and you can see I just had a blow up there that he missed. I edited out all the different blow-ups we got. It didn't hook anything up, but we're just back in this cove. It's a weedy, and this lake is a pretty shallow lake. I'm just throwing a buzzbait around, and I hook up there. I don't even know if this is a bass or a gator. I forget. But it was, I think the lakes are still a little post-spawn. The fishing's pretty good, but you kind of run into pockets of fish. So that's actually a bass. I know there's some gators mixed in here. And that's just a white double buzzer Strike King spinnerbait. Nice largie there. And we're back in that cove. They're just throwing the buzzbaits around. The raincoats are on at that point. There was a couple fish we caught when we first went out, but when we first launched, it was pouring. So I didn't set the camera up. Then after a while, when it kind of cleared up a little, and it was only light rain, I had my camera going. Chris had his camera going. So we started just throwing some topwater stuff. It was a little slow when we first started. I think when we first very started to fish, we got a couple, but then it was a little bit of a lull there. Then we got back into this weedy, shallow cove and started catching some fish. There's a gator there. They don't get off. The bass will get off, but the gators never seem to get off. And whenever you see me grab the camera and turn around like this, there's Chris there, and I think this is a frogfish. He was throwing that popping frog, and I think this is his frogfish here. Yeah. So a nice largie there. There's Chris, my buddy Chris, right there. So we got a few bites back in that cove, then we moved around. Coats are off, so the rain stopped. Moving around, and I believe this is a chatterbait fish. Yeah, that's just a jackhammer. Just throwing it around. And the lake is usually a pretty good chatterbait lake. But as I said, the fish were it was kind of a weird day. Maybe with all the fronts coming through, plus being a little post-spawn still, you'd find pockets of fish. It would be like we get a few bites, get some good action, and all of a sudden it would kind of slow down. Then we get some more action, it would kind of slow down. So it was a good day overall, as you'll see. But the fish were very scattered around. Maybe you could actually still see beds, but I didn't see anybody on them, so I'm assuming they're all done. But this is a decent chatterbait fish. We didn't catch anything huge on the day. I would say we had a few around that 3-pound range. These are all just those 2.5s, 2.25s. They were just covering water. Dodging the storms. Now, this is day one, which I believe was last Tuesday. The storms were not as bad Tuesday as they were the next day. When I get that video edited, you'll see those clips. That day, the rain was a lot heavier, so I didn't have the camera out all day. Here's Chris's nice smallmouth he caught, and we saw a bed. And then Chris saw a fish by a bed. Now, I don't know if he was actually on the bed or just swimming around, happened to be swimming around by it, but it was a nice smallie he caught. I think that was our biggest smallie of the day. He was throwing that power shot there and did very well with that. So that's a nice smallmouth we got there. And that's a spot I did see beds in the spring. Here I'm throwing a fluke, just a zoom fluke on my spinning rod there. I think this might have been my best fish of the day. Or, well, best fish of the day, I should say, that I got on the boat, got into the boat, as you'll see. But just throwing that fluke. I think I'm probably using 8-pound line. This was a nice largie. Just throwing it around the weeds. This is an area on the lake I like to throw. There's a lot of weed there, a lot of rock there. A decent transition from shallow to deep water where fish always seem to hang out. Even though that day we didn't really catch a ton right there. Like I said, they were scattered. But this is probably the best largemouth of the day that I actually got into the boat and didn't have them get off, right at the boat or close to the boat. Some of them are camera shy, so they do jump off. That's a decent large. You can see they're still a little skinny. Yeah, they're still a little skinny. But it's still, at this point, it was still Still June, so they've only been off the beds for a few weeks. But zoom fluke there. I think that's that pearl white. So that was a decent one right there. And then we just kept working down that shoreline. And I think this might be a smallmouth here on the fluke. And we worked up and down the shoreline a few times because I was marking so many fish, but we just weren't hooking up. But this smallie goes crazy. Now he's not a big smallie. And there's, like, you can't really tell, but up on that shoreline, there's a ton of rocks up there. Just right under the surface. So I don't think I caught a lot of smallie. This might have been the only smallie I caught all day. And as I said, the last video, when I did a video from this lake, I didn't even know there were smallies in there. And now I've been out there twice in a row, and we've boated smallies. No monster smallies, but, you know, decent ones. There's a little guy on the fluke, and I think my fluke is gone. I don't see it there. So I think it was all ripped up, so it finally fell off. There's a little smallmouth action going on. It's not raining at this point, but when we get around that point there and start working down, well, our raincoats will probably be back on again soon.
Park your boat, turn the wheel, close the
Here's another nice fish from Chris.
And,
I believe he was throwing the power shot here also, catching a nice largie.
that's a good one.
And all along this area, we were marking so many fish, but not hooking up. There's another nice largemouth there.
Yeah, cool.
Working that, and this is not a deep lake. We might have been in 12 feet, and I think you're not going to find much deeper in that lake. 10, 12, 14 feet at the most. And then we started working up this shoreline here, and there's a lot of scattered pads. And in the summer, they really get ganged up. I was throwing the buzzbait and getting blowups, but I didn't get any hookups. Chris did much better on the frog here. I think he got 2 or 3 decent fish through here. Here's one of them. And you know, the sound at this point with our coats back on, you can't really hear much.
Swing my line back. I hit your fucking pole.
It's starting to rain again. But that fish really, I was throwing the buzzbait in front, and I just heard that explosion. So I grabbed the camera and got a clip, and now we went up a little further. He got another one. Another nice one on that poppin' frog. And throwing the poppin' frog on a big, you know, heavy, you know, I use a big flipping stick for frogging. That's rough on the shoulder. Throwing that poppin' frog for a while with a big heavy, you know, flipping stick using as a frog rod. But another nice one there. Then we went back into this little canal here, and there's my best frogfish right there. But just as Chris grabs the camera, we're gonna get a good shot of him. He gets off. That was my best frogfish of the day. He might have been a three pluser, and he got right off by the boat. And then we turned around, started going back out, and I turned around. Chris is like, "Oh, I got one." He just chucked his jig up into the corner there, and there was another nice bass. I wish I had it on at the full time because it was really cool the way it was running right along that weed line there. But another nice one right here. This might have been the best fish of the day that we got on the boat. I think it probably was. But he just chucked, if you can see straight ahead where that water was running in, because it had poured so much. The water was just ripping. The lake had to be 2 feet above pool. But that might have been the biggest one we got in the boat that day. Right there, it was a nice 3 pluser. Nice chunk on the jig. And back in that little, I usually can't even get back that far, but the water being so high, I didn't really have any problems getting back there. So now we're going around an island. There's an island in the lake. We did the whole island, nothing, and I flipped my jig into some pads. And I caught a nice one here. And since I'm such a great sportsman, I realized that I don't want to keep him out of the water too long, so boom, back in the water he goes. So quick release right there. And then we went like an hour and a half with nothing. We're just coming back to the ramp, getting ready to call it a day. Throw the chatterbait up on the dam, and I catch a decent one here on the chatterbait, and that was it. So overall, not a bad day at all. We did get a lot of bites, a lot of blow-ups on the frogs. So for a crummy weather post-spawn day in late June, it was pretty good. You can tell the fish are a little skinny. You know, they got to start eating some real food. So that's it for day 1. I will get day 2 ready for you guys soon, and I will see you soon on YouTube. Mark out.